Public humiliation isn't just about the insult. It's a power play. But what if the most powerful move is to say nothing at all? We're told to be the bigger person, to forgive and forget. But what if silence isn't weakness? What if it's dominance? In today's loud world, the one who doesn't flinch commands the room. Respect isn't earned by reaction. It's earned by restraint. You're watching StoicCraft, where we don't just respond to disrespect, we rise above it. If you're ready to reclaim your power without raising your voice, subscribe now and let's begin. Have you ever been publicly humiliated by someone rude and didn't know how to respond? Maybe they insulted you in front of others. Maybe they laughed at you. Maybe they made you feel small. But here's the truth. They'll never tell you. You don't need to clap back to earn respect. You need to rise up so quietly, so powerfully, that they regret ever messing with you. In this video, I'm going to give you brutally honest ways to gain respect after being humiliated. No fake positivity, no people-pleasing. Just cold, calculated confidence. Because when someone tries to destroy your pride in public, your silence, your growth, and your comeback should haunt them louder than your words ever could. Let's begin, by the way, if you enjoy deep thought-provoking insights on Stoicism, self-improvement, and navigating life with wisdom, you'll love my free newsletter. Every Sunday I share powerful lessons, controversial truths, and practical strategies to help you level up, all for free. Want to join? Sign up using the link below and start receiving value-packed content straight to your inbox every week. And if you're a brand looking to sponsor my content and reach a highly engaged audience, feel free to reach out via my email in the description. Let's create something impactful together. One, let your results slap them in the face. Let me take you back to a moment I'll never forget. It was a small gathering, nothing formal, just a mix of friends and acquaintances. I made a slip up while talking something. Minor, could happen to anyone. But then came him. You know, the type, loud, always performing for attention, riding on sarcasm and ego. He took that small mistake and turned it into a punchline, mocked me in front of everyone, laughed louder than the joke. Even deserved, just to make sure all eyes were on him. And the others, they laughed too, not because it was funny, but because it's easier to laugh with the pack than to be the target of it. And I stood there, not because I had nothing to say, but because I made a choice. I knew if I clapped back in that moment, I'd only feed the drama. I'd give him more of what he wanted, my energy, my frustration, my reaction. But I gave him nothing. No expression, no comeback, just a quiet nod, like I was agreeing with the joke. But in my mind, I was agreeing with a promise. You get your moment now, but I'm going to take your spotlight later. From that day, I went ghost. No social posts, no group chats. I stopped trying to prove myself with words and started building my proof through action. I leveled up in silence, woke up earlier, hit the gym harder, read more, took on things I'd been procrastinating on for months, cut off distractions, cut off people who laughed. I started investing in myself like my pride depended on it, because it did. It wasn't just revenge, it was redemption. And every day I grew. I imagined their faces seeing me later, thriving, evolving, winning. I visualized it like a movie scene. 6 months pass, I'm in a completely different headspace. I feel sharper, fitter, more focused than I've ever been. Then guess who is me? Yep, the same guy who tried to humiliate me. But this time he wasn't laughing. He was asking for advice. How to grow a brand, how to get disciplined, how I got ahead so fast. And in that moment I realized I won. Not because I replied, not because I helped, but because I didn't need to reply. My results were loud enough. And that's the controversial truth. No one tells you clapping back with insults is loud and short-lived. but clapping back with results. That's silent, powerful, and humiliating on a whole other level. You see, when someone publicly disrespects you, they want attention. Don't give it to them. Give them outcomes instead. Let them watch you grow into someone they can't reach, can't joke about, and definitely can't compete with. Let your transformation speak so loudly their joke feels like ancient history. Let your discipline make their laziness embarrassing. Let your consistency highlight their inconsistency. Let your silence become a mirror that reflects their insecurity. When you grow and they don't, your existence becomes the reminder that they lost. So don't seek revenge, don't beg for respect, don't defend your name in noise. Build yourself up so hard that their insult becomes your origin story, and let your success slap them in the face without ever lifting your hand to publicly ignore them. There are few moves more powerful than pretending someone doesn't exist, especially when they expect you to give them attention. Let me be brutally honest. The people who humiliate you in public, they're not just being rude, they're making a power play. They want a reaction. Anger, tears, embarrassment, because that reaction validates their ego. But here's where you flip the script. You don't react, you don't speak, you don't even look their way. You ignore them publicly, coldly, like they're air. Let me tell you a story. There was a guy. I used to hang around Loudsmug, always trying to one-up people in public. One day he called me out in front of others, joking about something personal. I told him in confidence. Everyone laughed. I didn't. I just stared at him with a blank face. Didn't argue, didn't defend myself, didn't even blink. But from that day on, he was cut off. No eye contact. No head nods, no conversations. Just a cold void between us. Months passed. I worked on myself. I got stronger, sharper, more focused. People started noticing the difference in me. I wasn't playing social games anymore. I had boundaries. Then it happened. At Agathering, this same guy walks up to me in front of others and says, "Hey, bro, we good now?" "Yeah." I looked at him, said nothing, and walked right past him. Not a glance, not a smirk, just silence. And in that moment, in front of everyone, he looked tiny, because I did what he couldn't. I kept my power. Now here's the truth. People say, be the bigger person. But being the bigger person doesn't mean being available to people who disrespected you. It means knowing your value and deciding who no longer gets access. You don't have to forgive disrespect just because it's uncomfortable to ignore it. And no, you don't need a fake peace to look mature. Maturity isn't politeness. Maturity is control. Controlling your energy, controlling who you acknowledge, controlling who you let into your space. Here's why publicly ignoring someone works. It starves their ego. They expected drama. You gave them nothing. It shocks the crowd. People expect noise. You give them silence. And silence is powerful. It flips the power dynamic. They thought they embarrassed you, but now they're the ones standing alone, invisible. To the person they tried to humiliate, the best part, you didn't have to shout. You didn't have to insult. You didn't even have to explain. You showed the world that this person means nothing to you, and nothing cuts deeper than that. Because at the end of the day, respect isn't won by clapping back. It's won by refusing to acknowledge people who don't deserve your time. That's how kings move. That's how bosses operate. They don't argue. They don't beg, they exclude. So when someone disrespects you publicly and later tries to act like nothing happened, don't meet them halfway. Don't fake a smile. Don't play nice. Publicly ignore them. Let the silence echo louder than any comeback ever could. Let them stand in a room full of people and realize that you've outgrown them, that they're no longer in your circle, that they've been demoted to a stranger. And everyone watching, they'll respect you more. Not because you said something clever, but because you said nothing at all. 3. Speak once and never again. Say it once clearly, confidently, and then shut the door. Let them live in the echo. Let me tell you something most people won't admit. The moment you start over-explaining yourself to someone who has already disrespected you, you've already lost. Because what they're really after isn't clarity, it's control. They want you to chase their approval, to feel desperate, to be understood, to need their permission to defend your name. But when you speak once without anger, without weakness, and never again, you shake through. Let me give you a story I'll never forget. Years ago, I worked with a guy who acted like he owned the place. He was charming when he needed to be, but behind closed doors, manipulative. One day during a team meeting, he took a cheap shot at me. Public, blatant, designed to humiliate. Everyone turned to look at me, waiting for a reaction. I said one line, calm, cold, director. If you really believe that, then I've clearly overestimated your integrity. That was it. No raised voice, no emotion, just truth. And then I leaned back, folded my arms, and let the silence burn through the room. He chuckled nervously, tried to shift the blame, even looked around for support. But the damage was done. I never spoke on it again, never confronted him, never gave him the energy. And guess what? That moment became the only thing people remembered. Not his insult, but my restraint. Here's why speaking once and never again is so powerful. One, it makes your words unforgettable. People are used to noise, repetition, pleading. When you speak only once, it hits harder. It becomes a statement, not a debate. Two, it shows unshakable confidence. When you don't feel the need to defend yourself multiple times, it tells the world one thing: you know who you are. You're not here to prove it. Three, it exposes the other person's insecurity. When you stop responding, they start unraveling. They dig their own grave, trying to regain control. And you're already 10 steps ahead. Controversial truth: you don't owe your truth to people who twisted it the first time. You don't owe a clarification. You don't owe them your voice. You owe yourself peace. Let people talk. Let them misunderstand you. Let them make their assumptions. Because if they were worth your energy, they wouldn't have tried to embarrass you in the first place. Here's what you do. Speak once. Not out of rage, out of power. Be sharp, clear, not petty. Then leave them with nothing but your silence. That silence, that's your armor. It's your signal that you're done playing their game. And trust me, nothing haunts a disrespectful person more than knowing they no longer have access to your attention. You know what weak people do? They write long texts trying to explain themselves to people who don't care. They post vague statuses. They beg for mutual friends to clear things up. But the strongest people, they speak once and let everyone else scramble to understand them. That's not ego. That's self-respect. You're not just protecting your peace, you're commanding it. So next time someone humiliates you publicly or questions your character, don't bark, don't plead, don't overshare. Say your truth once with backbone, with fire. Then let them drown in their own noise. Because real strength isn't loud. It doesn't argue. Real strength says what it needs to once and never again. 4, use humor as a dagger. Let's get something straight. If someone humiliates you in front of others, the worst thing you can do is get emotional. That's what they want. That's what gives them power. They want to see you flinch, break, defend, collapse. But there's one response that flips the script entirely. One move that makes the crowd shift their loyalty instantly. A calm, calculated joke. Not a joke that entertains, a joke that exposes, one that slides under the surface, dances around their ego, and slices them before they even realize they've been cut. Let me tell you a story. I was in a small meeting with 10 people. One of those guys, you know the type, overly confident, way too comfortable being loud, decides he's going to call me out in front of everyone. He says something like, "Honestly, I'm just not sure you really understand what the client is asking." For that's not a question, That's a public slap. He wanted everyone to laugh. He wanted me to stumble. Now younger me would have probably defended myself with a full explanation. But I paused. I breathed, and I looked him right in the eyes and said, smiling, "You're absolutely right. Let's all slow down to your pace." The room went dead silent and burst into a few awkward chuckles. But here's the best part. I didn't follow up. I didn't explain myself. I just moved on with the meeting like I just brushed lint off my shoulder. He didn't say another word. Not because I yelled, not because I dominated, because I made it very clear. I'm not the one to play with. Here's why humor works better than rage when you've been disrespected. One, it confuses the enemy. They expect you to get mad. They want a reaction. But when you smile and hit back with something sharp, funny, and subtle, they don't know what just happened, and they definitely don't know what to do next. Two, it turns the room in your favor. People love confidence. They adore composure, but what they respect most is when you make disrespect look ridiculous. A well-timed joke flips the social energy. The crowd sides with you silently, sometimes loudly, but it's yours now. Three, it makes you memorable. Anger fades, rants are forgotten, but a savage one-liner that lingers. They'll repeat it, laugh about it, and deep down, even the one you joked about will feel it replaying in their head for weeks. Here are some lines you can keep in your back pocket. That was a bold take, wrong but bold. You clearly misunderstood me, but I admire your confidence in staying wrong. I'd argue with you, but I like to win. I love how you said that like it made sense. You don't need to swing hard, you just need to aim well. Because here's the truth. Most people who publicly humiliate others are insecure. They crave control, and nothing breaks that illusion faster than someone who can laugh right in the middle of an attack and throw a jab. So casually it feels like a compliment until it stings. But let me make this controversial, because nobody wants to say it. You will not gain respect after humiliation by being soft. You won't get it by begging, by explaining, or by crying about how wrong they were. You gain it by standing up with a smirk, hitting back without raising your voice, and making them look like the fool effortlessly. You gain it when people say, "Damn, did you hear what he said to him?" She clapped back without even blinking, because now they know you're not just unbothered. You're dangerous, and that's what earns respect in a world that feeds off ego and fear. The sharpest blade doesn't scream. It glides through with a smile. Next time someone tries to humiliate, you don't explode. Don't fold, jab, smile, walk away. Let them laugh with the room while quietly bleeding on the inside. 5. Cut off anyone who laughed with them. Let's get brutally real for a second. When Simeon humiliates you publicly, the first person you look at is the one who did it. But the second, the ones who laughed, the ones who smirked, the ones who stayed quiet even though they know you, who chose comfort over character. Those people are worse than the one who disrespected you. Why? Because disrespect from an enemy is expected, but betrayal from someone who calls you bro, sis, or friend, that hits deep. I remember a time in college when a so-called friend made a joke about my financial situation loud enough for the whole room to hear. Now he always had that class clown vibe, so people laughed. But what burned me the most wasn't him. It was the 3 other people sitting beside me who laughed right along with him. The same people I had shared meals with, studied with, even defended when others talked. Behind their backs, I didn't say a word that day. I just took mental notes. From that moment on, I was done with them. No more group chats, no more catch-ups, no more fake laughs. I cut them off cold and clean. And guess what? Not a single one came back to ask why. Because deep down they knew they laughed when they shouldn't have. They knew they chose sides, and that's the lesson. Silence is a choice. So is laughter. So is disloyalty. Here's why you must cut off anyone who laughs with your enemy. 1. They show you their true allegiance. People don't laugh at jokes that hurt people they respect. If they laughed while you were being disrespected, they enjoyed it, even if they say, "It was just a joke," or "I didn't mean it." No, laughter is agreement in disguise. 2, keeping them around weak boundaries. If you keep talking to them like nothing happened, they'll think, "I can cross your line again." And you'll let it slide, and that makes you look weak. You gain no respect. By keeping people who betrayed your dignity. 3, your presence is valuable. Treat it like it is. If you want people to respect you, you need to show them, "I don't tolerate subtle betrayal." You're not desperate. You're not needy. And if someone can't stand beside you when it's uncomfortable, they don't get to stand beside you when you rise. Now let's talk about what happens when you don't cut them off. You slowly start to lose your power. They joke again. They talk behind your back. They use you to feel better about themselves. And worse, you start to believe you deserve it. Let me make this controversial and crystal clear. If you tolerate snakes, don't be surprised when they bite. You don't need a big confrontation. You don't need closure. You just stop answering, stop inviting, stop trusting. That's it. Here's the truth. No one tells you. Most people watch to see how you react when you're humiliated. They take notes. If they see you forgive wrong people too quickly, you're labeled as someone who can be walked over again. But if they see you cut people off, move smarter, and elevate without bitterness, you become a threat, a person with standards, someone who demands respect, not just in words, but in actions. So next time someone disrespects you in public, look around and see who laughed, see who smirked, see who stayed silent when they could have said something. Those people are not your friends. They're just waiting for their turn to laugh at your expense again. When respect is lost, distance is the only cure. Cut them off quietly, permanently. No warnings, no announcements, and watch how your life becomes lighter and your circle becomes stronger. 6, make them regret picking on you. Listen when someone humiliates you. They're not just trying to be funny. They're testing you. They're gambling on the idea that you won't fight back, that you'll stay quiet, that you'll let it slide. And that's exactly where you flip the narrative. You don't react with emotions. You respond with evolution. You want to make them regret ever thinking you were the soft one, but you do it strategically, not with screams, not with revenge, but with transformation. Let me tell you a true story. Back in my first job, I had a manager who humiliated me in front of the entire team. He laughed at my ideas, interrupted me mid-sentence. At one point, he literally said, "Let's leave the real decisions to people who actually know what they're doing." Everyone laughed. I felt like my chest was on fire, but I didn't flinch. I said nothing, but I promised myself this: you'll eat those words, and I won't even have to say a word when it happens. So I went silent, not submissive. I stopped trying to impress them. Instead, I focused. I learned like a madman. I took on the worst clients. The least desirable projects stayed late. Not for them, for me. And 3 months later, I closed a deal that literally saved the company's quarter. Guess who had to stand in front of everyone and give me credit? Yeah, him. He didn't look me in the eye once because deep down he knew. He gave the mic to the wrong person that day. Here's how you make them regret ever picking on you. 1, become the person they said you'd never be. The fastest way to silence a critic is to embody everything they said you couldn't. They called you dumb. Outlearn them. They mocked your ideas. Outbuild them. They laughed at your dreams. Outlive them. Let their insult be the fuel, not the wound. 2, build in silence. Come back in power. Don't go around telling everyone your comeback plan. That's just noise. Move quietly. Show results. By the time they realize you've leveled up, it's too late for them to undo the damage they caused. 3, don't block them. Let them watch. The best revenge isn't served cold. It's served on a glowing screen where they see you winning. They should scroll through your progress. They should hear people mention your name with respect. Let your success become their personal punishment. Let's be controversial. Some people will tell you forgive and forget. Never forgive, sure, but never forget. Why? Because pain has a memory. And when you use that memory correctly, it doesn't become trauma. It becomes motivation. They picked on you at your weakest. Let them see you now at your most powerful. And no, you don't need to humiliate them back. You don't need a confrontation. The best regret they'll feel is seeing you become everything they tried to suppress. Here's the cold truth. Nobody regrets picking on the person who stays quiet and disappears. But they regret underestimating the one who rises silently, walks back into the room unrecognizable, and commands every eye in the building without even trying. That is the version of you they won't see coming, and when they do, it'll be too late. 7. Stand on your standards. Let's get one thing straight. When someone humiliates you publicly, they're testing your self-worth. They're trying to see how much disrespect will this person tolerate before they do something about it. And how you respond says everything, not just to them, but to everyone watching. This is where your standards come in. Not the ones you talk about, the ones you enforce, the invisible lines that say this is what I accept, this is what I don't. And if you cross this line, you're gone. No explanation necessary. Here's a personal story. I used to have a friend who constantly made these jokes. They were just insults with a smile. He'd make comments about my appearance, my family, even my relationships. Always followed with, relax, I'm just kidding. One day in front of a group, he joked about something personal, something I had told him in private. People laughed. I didn't. I looked at him and said, that's the last time you'll ever get to speak to me like that. He laughed, thought I was bluffing. I wasn't. I didn't shout. I didn't explain. I just cut the cord. No texts, no calls, no interactions. Done. And guess what happened? Within weeks, people who used to laugh with him started drifting my way. Because when you have standards, you become magnetic. Not because everyone likes you, but because they respect you. Let's break it down. 1. Standards are not rules. They're boundaries with consequences. Anyone can say they have boundaries, but if there's no consequence, it's just a suggestion. If you let someone cross your line once and do nothing, they'll cross it again with confidence. Your standards should feel like concrete. Step out of line, and you hit a wall. No warning, no softness, just reality. 2. People will test you just to see if you're lying. Some people will mock you, tease you, disrespect you on purpose, just to see if you're all talk. If you fold, you've trained them that you're not serious about yourself. If you stand firm, you've just earned their respect or their distance. Both are wins. 3. You will lose people, but you'll gain power. Let's be honest, enforcing your standards will make people uncomfortable. Some will leave, let them. Because when you raise your standards, the people who can't reach them naturally fall off. They'll call you arrogant. They'll say, you've changed. Damn right you have. Growth looks like arrogance to people who settled. Here's the controversial part. Most people don't have standards. They just want to be liked. They'll let people mock them, walk on them, talk down to them, and smile through it all, just to avoid conflict. That's not humility. That's self-abandonment. When you finally stand on your standards, people will start adjusting how they talk to you. Not because you demanded respect, but because you commanded it by how you moved, how you spoke, and how you responded. Here's how you do it practically. Someone address you. Once you address it, once they do it again, you walk away. No debate, no drama, just distance. And most importantly, you never lower your standards just to keep someone who makes you feel small. Standards are how you teach the world to treat you. If someone humiliates you and you let it slide, you've trained them to do it again. But if you draw a line and actually stick to it, You've built a boundary that even they can't ignore. That's how. You get respect, not from shouting, not from clapping back, but by standing tall on principles that never shake, even when the whole room is laughing. They thought it was a joke until you became the lesson. The truth is, you don't gain respect by reacting. When you're humiliated, you gain respect by transforming when they least expect it. Let them laugh, let them mock, let them write their punchlines and whisper behind your back. But while they're stuck repeating the same shallow cycle, you evolve in silence. You rise with purpose, and by the time they realize what you've become, you'll be untouchable, not because you're louder, but because you're unshakable. The world is full of people who test your boundaries just to see if you love yourself enough to defend them. So show them that you don't need to argue to prove your worth. Show them that your glow doesn't dim just because someone tried to shade it. Show them that you can take disrespect and turn it into domination, because here's what they'll never tell you. The strongest revenge is becoming someone they have to respect, even if they still don't like you, even if they'll never say it out loud. So the next time someone tries to humiliate you, smile, say nothing, and get to work. Because you don't need applause. You need silence and a storm building behind it. And when you finally speak again, it won't be words, it'll be results.